Walk into any pharmacy in America and go to the supplement aisle. Vitamin K2, nattokinase capsules, probiotic blends, omega-3, CoQ10, the bottles are everywhere. The labels make big promises. And the prices, if you're taking 2 or 3 of them together, can run you $80, $90, sometimes over $100 every single month. Now walk into a small grocery store in Japan. There is a section, usually near the tofu, near the fermented foods, where small white polystyrene packages sit in the refrigerated case. Each one contains a few servings of a fermented soybean food that Japanese people have eaten for breakfast for over 1,000 years. The package costs less than $2. A month's supply costs $4. And what's inside that package does biologically, measurably, according to peer-reviewed research, what 3 of the most popular supplements in the Western world claim to do. Separately, at a combined cost of over $80 a month. The food is called natto, and almost nobody outside of Japan knows what it actually contains. Today I'm going to show you exactly what natto does in your body, exactly which supplements it replaces, and exactly why the supplement industry has absolutely no interest in telling you this food exists. Stay through all 3 parts. The third one, the one about what natto does inside your arteries, is the part that will change how you look at your supplement cabinet. Here is something worth understanding about the supplement industry before we go any further. I've spent years studying the research on traditional Japanese diet and longevity. The longevity studies, the dietary analyses, the field research from Okinawa and other regions where people routinely live past 90 and 100 in good health. And the same pattern comes up repeatedly. The nutrients that the supplement industry sells at a premium in capsule form, in blister packs, with clinical sounding names on the label, are nutrients that traditional Japanese diets have delivered through whole food for centuries, not as a supplement, as breakfast. Natto is the clearest example of this pattern I have ever found. It is a fermented food made from soybeans that have been inoculated with a bacterial culture called Bacillus subtilis natto. The fermentation process, which Japanese households and producers have been doing the same way for over 1,000 years, transforms ordinary soybeans into something with a completely different nutritional profile. The fermentation creates compounds that do not exist in any other food in any meaningful quantity. 3 of those compounds are the reason you're here today. Before we go into them, this video is for educational purposes. I'm not a doctor, and nothing here is medical advice. I'm sharing what the research shows and what these traditional communities have eaten for generations. What you do with it is your choice. The first compound natto contains is vitamin K2, specifically the form of K2 called MK7. If you've ever looked into bone health, heart health, or calcium metabolism, you've encountered K2. It's one of the fastest growing supplement categories in the world right now. Bottles of MK7 sell for $30, $40, sometimes $50 a month. And the marketing around it is compelling because the science is real. Here's what K2 actually does. Most people know that calcium is important for bones. What almost nobody explains is that calcium doesn't automatically go to your bones just because you consumed it. Calcium in the bloodstream needs to be directed. It needs specific proteins called osteocalcin and matrix GLA protein. to activate and guide it into bone tissue instead of letting it deposit in soft tissue, in arterial walls, in places where calcium does not belong. Vitamin K2 is what activates those proteins. Without adequate K2, calcium circulates in your blood and deposits where it shouldn't, in your arteries, in your joints. This is called arterial calcification. It is one of the primary mechanisms behind arterial stiffness and cardiovascular disease. You can take all the calcium and vitamin D you want. Without K2 to direct it, a portion of that calcium ends up exactly where you don't want it. This is not controversial science. This has been understood since research on the Rotterdam study in the late 1990s showed that higher K2 intake was associated with significantly lower cardiovascular mortality. The science has built consistently since then. Now here's where natto enters the picture. MK7, the form of K2 in supplements, was originally isolated from natto. It exists in natto in quantities that are not found in any other food on Earth, not even close. A single serving of natto contains more MK7 than an entire bottle of most K2 supplements. Researchers have measured it repeatedly. Natto contains approximately 800 to 1,000 micrograms of MK7 per 100 grams. The typical K2 supplement contains 100 to 200 micrograms per capsule and costs $40 for a month's supply. Japanese people eating natto for breakfast 3 or 4 times a week have been getting this compound in a highly bioavailable whole food form for generations, without a capsule, without a label, without a monthly subscription. The supplement industry extracted this compound from natto, put it in a bottle, and sells it back to you at a markup that would make anyone uncomfortable if they understood what they were paying for. Now, before I get to the second compound, I want you to hold on to something. K2 is impressive. The research is solid, the mechanism is clear, and the fact that natto provides it in greater quantities than any supplement is remarkable on its own. But the second compound is the one that genuinely surprised me when I first came across the research. Because unlike K2, which at least people have heard of, this one is almost entirely unknown outside of specialist cardiology circles. And what it does inside your bloodstream is something no vitamin, no mineral, and no common supplement can replicate. Keep watching. This is the one that changes the conversation. The second compound is called nattokinase. And I want to be precise with you here, because this is where the science gets serious. Nattokinase is an enzyme, not a vitamin, not a mineral, an enzyme. It is produced during the fermentation of natto and exists in significant quantities in no other food. It was discovered in 1987 by a Japanese researcher named Dr. Hiroyuki Sumi, who was studying natural substances that could dissolve fibrin, the protein that forms blood clots. Dr. Sumi placed natto directly on fibrin samples in a laboratory and watched what happened. The natto dissolved the fibrin completely in 18 hours, where the standard pharmaceutical thrombolytic agent used in hospitals took the same experiment over 2 days. He named the active enzyme nattokinase. And the research that followed over the next 4 decades has been remarkable. Here is what nattokinase does. Your blood contains a balance between clot-forming proteins and clot-dissolving proteins. As you age, this balance tends to shift toward clot formation. Blood becomes slightly thicker. Fibrin accumulates. The risk of blood clots in arteries, in veins, increases. This is part of why cardiovascular events become more common with age. Nattokinase directly supports your body's own clot-dissolving system. It enhances the activity of plasmin, your body's natural fibrin-dissolving enzyme. It reduces fibrinogen levels in the blood. Multiple clinical studies have shown it lowers systolic and diastolic blood pressure. A 2021 study published in a peer-reviewed journal showed that nattokinase supplementation significantly reduced carotid artery plaque over a 26-week period, not slowed the growth of plaque, reduced existing plaque. You can buy nattokinase as a supplement. It is sold in capsule form, typically at $20 to $40 a month. And those supplements are derived from natto. They extract the enzyme from fermented soybeans, encapsulate it, and sell it. But here is the thing the supplement companies don't advertise on the label. Nattokinase in whole natto comes packaged with vitamin K2, with probiotics, with isoflavones, with the exact food matrix in which this enzyme evolved over centuries of traditional fermentation. The bioavailability of nattokinase from whole natto, based on studies measuring its activity after consumption, is strong and consistent. Japanese elders who eat natto 3 or 4 times a week are not taking nattokinase supplements. They are eating natto. They have been eating natto since before nattokinase had a name, and their cardiovascular health at 80, 90, and 100 years old consistently confounds Western medical expectations. The supplement exists because the food worked. Buy the food. 2 down, 1 left. And I want to be honest with you, the third compound is the one the industry talks about most, because they've built an enormous market around it. The probiotic supplement market alone is worth billions of dollars globally. Billions. What I'm about to show you is why natto's probiotic profile is different from what's in those expensive refrigerated bottles, and why that difference matters specifically for an aging gut. The third part is also where the full picture comes together. Stay with me. The third compound in natto is its probiotic, the live bacterial culture Bacillus subtilis natto. Now you've heard about probiotics, the refrigerated capsules, the yogurt with the live cultures, the kombucha, the expensive bottles that instruct you to store them below a certain temperature or the bacteria die. The global probiotic supplement market is worth over $60 billion and growing. Here is what most people spending $30 to $50 a month on probiotic capsules do not know. The majority of probiotic bacteria used in commercial supplements are fragile. Lactobacillus strains, bifidobacterium strains, these are the bacteria you find in most probiotic products. They are beneficial when they reach the gut. The problem is getting them there. The stomach is a highly acidic environment. Stomach acid is designed to destroy bacteria. Studies measuring the survival rate of commercial probiotic strains through the stomach consistently find that a significant percentage, sometimes the majority, do not survive the journey. What reaches your gut is a fraction of what was on the label. The bacteria in natto, Bacillus subtilis natto, is fundamentally different. It is what microbiologists call a spore-forming bacteria. When conditions become hostile, including exposure to stomach acid, it forms a protective spore shell around itself. It goes dormant. It passes through the stomach completely protected. When it reaches the more hospitable environment of the intestine, It reopens. It colonizes. It gets to work. This is not a marginal advantage. It is a structural advantage built over thousands of years of coevolution between this bacteria and the human digestive system. What does Bacillus subtilis natto do once it reaches the gut? It produces natural antibacterial compounds that suppress pathogenic bacteria without harming beneficial strains. It supports the integrity of the gut lining. It produces enzymes that aid in the digestion of proteins. And it survives and colonizes more effectively than almost any commercial probiotic strain because it was not engineered for a supplement. It was fermented into a food that has been fed to human digestive systems for over a millennium. In Japan, gut health is not a supplement category. It is a food category. Miso, natto, tsukemono, pickled vegetables. Fermented foods are woven into every meal. The gut microbiome of elderly Japanese, particularly in Okinawa, has been studied and found to be distinctly different from Western populations of similar age, more diverse, more populated with beneficial strains, more resistant to the dysbiosis that underlies so many age-related conditions. They are not taking probiotic capsules. They are eating fermented food with breakfast. A month's supply of a quality probiotic supplement, $30 to $50. A month's supply of natto, eaten 3 to 4 times per week, approximately $4. Let me show you the math. A quality vitamin K2 supplement, $40 a month. A natokinase supplement, $30 a month. A quality probiotic, $40 a month. Combined, $110 every single month for compounds that were isolated from traditional Japanese food, put into capsules, and sold back to you with a label, or $4 a month of natto, which contains all three, in whole food form, with the bioavailability that comes from eating something your body recognizes as food rather than a processed extract. This is not an argument against all supplements. There are nutrients that are genuinely difficult to obtain from food in adequate quantities, and supplementation makes sense for them. But K2, natokinase, and gut bacteria are not in that category, not if you're willing to eat natto. Japanese elders did not build the world's longest-lived population on a supplement protocol. They built it on a food culture that quietly provided what the body needs through the same fermented, traditional foods eaten at the same simple breakfast table, generation after generation. The supplement industry found those foods, extracted their active compounds, and created a market worth billions of dollars. The Okinawans, who are 100 years old right now, have never opened one of those bottles. A practical note before you go. Natto is available in most Asian grocery stores, refrigerated near the tofu. It comes in small polystyrene packages, typically 2 or 3 servings per package. It has a strong smell and a stringy, sticky texture that takes some adjustment. Most people eat it over rice with a little soy sauce and mustard, the way Japanese people have served it for centuries. If the flavor is difficult at first, start with 1 serving a week. The texture softens when you stir it vigorously before eating, the traditional method, and one that actually increases natokinase activity according to research. 3 to 4 servings a week is what the research on Japanese longevity populations consistently shows. Not every day, not a large amount, just a small, regular, consistent habit, the same kind of habit that has quietly kept an island population living past 100 for generations. $100 a month in supplements or $4 a month in natto. The research points to the same place the food always did.